First this week, a look at Honda's astonishing Civic Type R with race car RPM for the road, if you're brave enough to shoot for $8,000, that is. A pair of concept cars in the same vein, the Inspiro from Ermshire and the other from Venturi, the strangely named Fetish. Last time we saw it, the Renault Talisman was just a computer-generated image. Now it's metal, and it's one step closer to reality. And Mitsubishi's pretty little heartbeat cars are also getting closer, and quite honestly, they can't get close enough soon enough. If you are a driver of a certain age, as we like to say, then your concept of a hot hatch is almost certainly conveyed by the letters XRI or GTI, which only goes to show how old we both are. Ever since Honda's period of Formula One domination, the Japanese car maker has been using the halo of racetrack success to support the image of a series of performance cars, of which the NSX and its possible successor, the Dual Note, are the prime examples. And for prime, you should really be reading top of the range. The evergreen NSX, awash with new technology when it arrived, is still a good-looking road car, which is a testament to the excellence of its original design, and it's tempting to wonder how many of the current crop of sports cars will survive the test of time so well. Not that the Dual Note will have to, given that it or something like it becomes a production reality. Just as well, the car industry is in the process of cutting lead times and model life, really, since the current trend for blunt, heavy designs can't be over soon enough for me, no matter how much technology might be crammed under their unattractive skin. Not that we are singling out any one manufacturer for such critique. They're all guilty, and they're all in what looks very much like the same boat. But there you are. However, no such complaints about the current lineup, where the Civic is modern yet pretty, and in some guises benefits from all of the technology available as well. Okay, one guise in particular, and Honda have chosen to call it the Type R. This is the designation which has replaced XRI and GTI in the modern street cred parlance, and rightly so, since the Type R has elevated the idea of the performance hatch quite considerably, right up to about 8,000 RPM. But more of that later. Let's start with the basics, and in this case we're talking Civic, a credible and spacious hatch designed for modern living. As a piece of exterior design, you might find it a bit tall, a bit MPV looking, a little bit sedate, and we aren't going to argue over that. Compared to Focus, for example, it pleads guilty on all counts, but on the other hand, it packs, well, almost anything you want to put in it, really. Inside, the Civic has room for the kitchen sink, should you wish to transport one, and then some. And as a Type R, it packs a punch which has rewritten the rules for the hot hatch market, a marketplace, incidentally, into which Ford and Focus have yet to fully enter, though expect the RS badge to make a fighting return quite soon. Meanwhile, the Civic and its extraordinary engine have the floor to themselves, and while the engine is the key element of the package, it is not alone. We've always been unable to agree with perceptions of the Civic chassis as being the equal of the Focus, although some testers have welcomed it as such, but it is good. And we have always found the interior to be an excellent piece of work. While undeniably Japanese in its composition, we're not complaining. And the Type R has got everything you want. The specification is also undeniably Japanese, and they've always been generous with the toys, and the Focus lags behind. Although, if you were in this market, you would undoubtedly be impressed by the kit available in the very rapid Seat Leon, which lists at a little bit less than the Honda. But let's talk engines, because that's what the Type R experience is all about. More revolutions per minute than a mad hamster on a wheel, plus access to them via a remarkable 6-speed gearbox that's actually one of the very best bits of the Type R driving experience. On the road, you have to pay attention to the performance figures because that's what the Type R is all about. A mere 2-litre device with 4 cylinders, the engine benefits from 2 camshafts and Honda's VTEC treatment in order to deliver an astonishing 200 horsepower at an even more extraordinary 7,400 RPM. Just as everyone else is banging on the limiter, the Type R hits peak performance and it doesn't stop there. It goes higher still and just goes on getting faster. In previous models, it wasn't easy to stay in this elevated area of the rev range, but that's all fixed now, and anyone can keep the Type R on the cam and screaming, which is one of the main reasons Honda offers buyers a day of instruction from someone who knows how to deal with so much power.
The majority of people we've taken have never done anything about driver training since they last passed the test. And a person who I've had recently was 72 years young, and he was up in Lancaster, in Lancashire. He thoroughly enjoys the car, he likes the acceleration, and he said to me, Mike, he says, the best thing I like is being able to drive away at traffic lights in my flat cap when somebody's alongside me in another vehicle think they'll beat me off from the lights. I love it, he says, and it was over the moon about it. On the other end of the scale, 25, 35-year-old people have come back and we've given them a bit of tuition in the vehicle for them to get the benefit out of the car, using the correct gears, observations, concentration, anticipation, and planning. So hopefully we're keeping them safe and getting full benefit and full use of the car.
Yes, there is another side to the Type R, and though it's bound to find favour with younger enthusiasts, that doesn't preclude anyone else. It's a polite and well-mannered motorway cruiser with loads of space and a very fine chassis, and that superb engine and gearbox will dawdle about the country lanes all day long if you wish. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and you can have whichever one of the two you prefer. Ermshire started life as a tuning company specialising in Opel engines, and 35 years later that's still probably how they are best known by most people. That plus the wide range of body parts for Opel-based rally fans. In fact, that long relationship with Opel continues, and you can still buy Ermshire parts for your Vauxhall or Opel, which come with their own year-long guarantee and don't affect the maker's warranty as long as they're properly fitted. Alternatively, you might prefer to bypass the bolted-on and painted option and buy a complete car. In this case, the Opel-powered Inspiro Concept, a 2-seat roadster with a 3-litre V6 and rear-wheel drive, and, most interestingly, 225 horsepower in less than 800 kilos. And just for the record, that's half the weight of your average 911 and rather more than half the horsepower, which gives you a fair idea of what the performance might be like if it ever makes it to production. At the moment, it's all speculative. A concept car indeed, and that probably accounts for the Batmobile look so popular among concept car designers at the moment. But it's a fair effort, this, and to be honest, we've seen much worse on the stands at Geneva, rotating under some very big motor industry names, so Irmscher really have nothing to be ashamed of. On the contrary, some of us quite like this, and the only source of possible worry about it might be the eventual price. Built in a small production run, it might have disproportionately high unit costs like so many others of its kind, but assuming Irmscher can solve that problem, as have Noble for example, then we like it. You might prefer this from Venturi, the strangely named Fetish, also on show in Geneva. Students of the sports car world will know there's more strange things about Venturi than the name of this car. Originally formed in 1984, the company changed hands a couple of times before it came good under Swiss ownership and gave us the 400 GT, named for the power output of its Renault engine and a moderately successful race car which even competed at Le Mans. But that moderate racetrack success was sadly not equalled by showroom success, and in 2000 the company went into receivership for what looked like being the final time. But now there's this, on show in Geneva. A far more modern offering, which might well find more favour, more buyers, and with any luck, a little bit more showroom success. More concept cars and a bit of reality as well still to come, and we'll be looking at the Renault Talisman in the metal instead of on the screen. CZ2 and 3, Mitsubishi's pretty little hatchback twins, hit the road in a minute. But first, a look at a concept car that hit the road before it was built. It's worth remembering that when we first saw the computer-generated images of the Talisman at Geneva a year ago, we liked it at once. We liked the ideas, the concepts, the integrated whole, and the fact that we all but sat in it and drove it even though it was just a computer-generated image. Now, Geneva, a year later. It's real, and though you can't sit in it still on account of its huge cost and rarity, here it is, reality instead of virtuality. Although it's still hardly beyond the stage of being a dream car, an ideas platform that's one step further removed from reality than a concept car, and as such, Talisman will never go into production in anything like this form, although individual ideas will survive. So look on this the way we saw it first, as a virtual car, as a fresh look at future design. When Mitsubishi took the wraps off their new CZ hatchbacks in Tokyo at the end of last year, they introduced them under the new marketing umbrella they'd chosen, calling them heartbeat cars. But even if the marketing speak sounds a bit odd, the cars are not. And the best news was that the CZ3 Tarmac was a very good-looking concept that was destined to reach the street largely unchanged, not just with a Mitsubishi badge, but also as the new generation Chrysler Z car as well. In other words, you will be able to have one just like it very soon indeed. Mitsubishi are very keen to promote the competition background which led them to this very sporting hatch, pointing out their long history of success on Paris-Dakar and incredible back-to-back titles in the World Rally Championship. In fact, observers of that championship might well feel that the Tarmac has a future home on the stages, especially in view of the success of smaller cars like the Focus and of course Peugeot and Citroën, and the lack of results for Mitsubishi's comparatively larger Charisma. The Tarmac is packed with gizmos that owe their effectiveness to all that competition experience. So its 4-cylinder turbo engine supplies drive to all 4 wheels through an active centre diff backed up by active yaw control. And these are key ingredients to a successful rally car. And an active diff which offers infinitely adjustable slip ratios is far superior to a fixed-rate viscous coupling, no matter how smooth its operation, and that's why competition cars have them, of course. By the same token, active yaw control is an essential feature of a serious rally car. It does the same thing from side to side at the back as the centre diff does between front and rear, infinite ratios according to need and circumstance, giving measurable benefits in terms of acceleration, cornering and braking, as well as stability in the twisty bits at speed. The engine is merely a 1500cc unit but has turbo and intercooler as well as Mitsubishi's trademark GDI, gasoline direct injection. As we all know, direct injection is a superior means of delivering precisely metered fuel to precisely the right place, and is most often a hallmark of classy and expensive engines from the likes of BMW and Mercedes. But technology always percolates downwards, and we'll see more of these new ideas appearing more often as makers use electronics to give them ever more accurate control over engine management and behaviour, and to manipulate fuel injection methods which would simply be impossible without astoundingly sophisticated onboard computers. Meanwhile, this car and the other ones like it probably have more sophisticated engine management systems than, say, Ayrton Senna had on his McLaren when he was winning world championships right, left and centre. And that, of course, is a direct benefit of competition involvement from any manufacturer. Not quite so competition-derived is the continuously variable transmission, which drivers of a certain age will remember pioneered by DAF as Variomatic and consisting of 2 huge rubber bands. Of course, it's a different animal now, but essentially CVT allows sequential gear shifts for fun or full automatic shifts for convenience. And convenience is the main aim as far as the Tarmac's baby brother is concerned. Here too, the CVT is present with a shift lever on the steering wheel for those moments when the driver feels like getting involved. But in the main, this is a city car and drivers are expected to leave the traction to its own devices. If they do, it manages the job very nicely, thank you, and it helps the 1.3 petrol engine deliver good all-round performance, plus excellent economy and low emissions, which is one of its big design aims. Design for both these cars was the responsibility of Mitsubishi's new chief designer Olivier Boulet, previously from Mercedes. His job, aside from the image revamp and smart new look, was some clever packaging inside and Like the Honda Civic, the CZ moves the transmission and minor controls off the floor and up onto the dashboard so as to provide extra space at floor level. Although a lot of its more concept-y ideas, the bench front seat that folds flat to make a bed for example, and the internet and email screen on the dashboard, we can expect them not to be signed off for production. Likewise, the 4-piece sunshine roof, which allows passengers to make their own decisions about fresh air. Nice, but not practical. Other things, perhaps yes, maybe we will see fibre optic running lights if there's a cost, weight and reliability advantage, but at the moment it's just an idea. But the CZ has been designed for production. It's been designed to be close to engineering reality as it gets, and it's been engineered for reliability. Externally, it has the characteristically tall modern cabin shape and therefore offers the sort of passenger space that's now demanded at this level, and like the Focus especially, has managed to deliver this within a style that's both individual and a bit funky and demonstrably modern. That's helped by a longish wheelbase and short overhangs. It's fun to look at, and of course it's much easier to park as well. Time to own up, of course, and say that we do like the look of both these cars, and said so quite clearly when the concepts were unveiled in Tokyo last year. Of the two, we'd obviously prefer the sporty and chic tarmac model, but we can see that the city car is going to be the volume seller, and of course that's what Mitsubishi has to be looking for in future. Arguably the most design conservative of the Japanese car makers, despite that outrageous competition success in its background, Mitsubishi needs cars like this soon, and so do we.